Hello, welcome to Needing a Meeting. My name is Carol, and I am your bedraggled host. Get a farm, they said. It'll be fun, they said. It got up to a whopping 15 degrees today, and then it's going to be sub-zero tonight. CK. All right, let's see. Hello, Ben Turner. Hello, CK. Wasn't the first one for the lifeboat, but do you know who was the first one here? Yes. Who's your daddy? I can't myself up by picking up the yard that is frozen solid with buckets of hot water and plastic gloves. It was not a pretty sight. It really wasn't gross. I don't mean that. Okay, well, wow, CK. Sorry you're going through that. I meant I kept myself awake. I don't know how you do it, Carol, but it is great that you do it for the animals. I have Christmas blankets covering up the patio so my dog doesn't slip. Oh, yeah. Oh, little four-leggeds and two-leggeds with wings. So anyway, how's everybody? Hi, one with Shell Cats. Hi, Henny. Good to see you guys. Whoo. So yeah. So I guess I'll pick up where I left off reading in Smart Recovery. If I can find where that is. I forgot to bookmark it yesterday. Anyway, hopefully somebody will want to come and have a meeting. In this handbook, you'll find SMART's 4-point program, tools, strategies, and exercises to help you in your recovery, information for family and friends. The 4-point program is the heart of SMART. Each point provides you with tools, techniques, and strategies that can help you on your journey. Many of these tools and techniques are skills that you can use after you've fully recovered to help you deal with future problems and achieve more satisfaction and balance in your life. Hi, Zelda. Hi, Tammy. These points are not steps. For some people, they are sequential. For others, they are not. For example, some people come to SMART when they are coping with urges, having built their motivation on their own. The 4 points are building and maintaining motivation. 2, coping with urges. 3, managing thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. 4, living a balanced life. Rational emotive behavior, REBT, generally recognized as the first form of cognitive behavioral therapy, was pioneered by Dr. Albert Ellis in the 1950s and was originally known as rational therapy. Hi, Pup Groomer. Many of the tools and techniques that SMART uses come from CBT. Epictetus, an ancient Greek philosopher, wrote, "People are disturbed not by things, but by their view of things." Yeah. People sometimes exaggerate their thoughts about events in their lives. These thinking errors, in turn, influence how they feel. This connection forms the underlying principle of REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy. Rational is how we think, which influences emotive, how we feel, which influences behavior, how we act. In therapy, the training to help us learn how to change our thinking to feel and behave in healthier ways. Many of our problems seem to start with how we react to life's events. If someone is rude to us, we fight with our spouse, or we don't get the job we wanted, our irrational thoughts and excessive emotions may take over. You may have used an addictive behavior to deal with irrational thoughts and excessive emotions. We call this the using strategy for coping with discomfort. Somehow we adopted the unrealistic belief that life should be free from discomfort and pain and that we shouldn't have to tolerate it. Well, dadgummit, ain't that right? This is This unhelpful belief leads to further distress, which drives the urge to engage in addictive behavior to escape the discomfort. Yeah, we are impetuous creatures, it seems. What did I do with my bookmark? There it is. Well, so anybody want to come in and have a meeting with me? Ah, yes, we want you to take care of you. All righty. Tammy, how's work? Let's see. It's a good idea. Sorry, I keep trying to scroll down and it keeps hitting messages. I'm here listening. I have been watching live cameras in Nashville to see if I see my son. Okay. Yeah, taking a from it could be a good thing. Hello, Ben.
Uh-oh, let's see here. Aha, there we go. Well, if you dare, that is. So how long have you been in recovery anyway? Just recovery.
Next month I will have 30 years clean and sober.
Wow.
Yeah.
And what was your drug of choice again?
Alcohol, big time.
Oh.
I did other things too, but it was always in relation and hinging off of alcohol.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah. And it did. It nearly destroyed me. You know, what I've struggled with through the years is, you know, I had mental illness going on and I was trying to self-medicate. And, you know, I mean, I had some real imbalances happen after I gave birth to my son.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
And, you know, and I already knew that there was something kind of roiling in me that could end up in a crisis point, you know. And so I was kind of drinking to not think about it, you know, and drinking to not think about like a lot of the things going on in my head, one of which was that I wasn't supposed to live to see 30. I'm 2 years away from 60 now, so
wow.
Yeah.
Was you drinking before or after the cult?
Oh no, well before.
Okay, and I guess that makes sense because I guess people in recovery.
Yeah, I turned to religion after about 7 months or so in recovery and AA and AA and NA. It got me sober. It's great for that, but long term, I just wasn't seeing where it was going to help me maintain sobriety. You know, and you know, I'd had like a series of things happen to me that made me decide that, you know, that Jesus Christ was the way that I wanted to go with my life. And so I turned to a really intense, like evangelical type church situation, which eventually led me into the cult. I was about 5 years clean and sober when I got into the cult. You know,
where was your husband during? I mean, was he after the cult or
he
before?
was well after the cult. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I left the cult in 2009. I stayed a year in Texas with my mom when she was recovering from open heart surgery at age 82. And then I decided that I needed to do, when she was well enough to kind of see if she could make it on her own. There wasn't anything for me in South Texas where she was, employment wise or otherwise.
Sure.
And, I mean, and it was like, I just wasn't going to make a living wage there. And, so I decided to move back here to Northwest Arkansas. And Steve and I had known each other just from kind of running in the same circles when I was younger. When I was out there in my addiction, doing my thing, you know. But, you know, so my struggle has always been, was I really addicted or was I just using it to manage, you know, my mental issues? And, you know, that's a question that I didn't explore in relapse because I did recognize once I got sober, in AA
Mm-hmm.
that I was pretty close to death's doors.
No kidding.
Yeah. Like toward the end, all I was doing was drinking coffee, eating a bag of cookies, and then the rest of the time was drinking.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty well picking your liver, you think?
Well, at that age, I was, in my 20s, so you're not thinking
Okay.
about any of that stuff.
Yeah, you're still made of rubber at that point. Kind of like Calhoun. Yeah, you don't even realize you're going to die. There she is with the
Hey.
SD on the wall.
I'm trying. It's snowing here and my internet cuts out really bad. And I
Okay.
had to be in my bedroom today instead of where I normally am because I didn't have any propane for the fireplace out there. So
Oh,
it's really cold. Yeah.
ouch.
So you get to see my guitar, my red walls, my thing, and
Yeah, it looks
yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's not quite done yet, but hey, I figured I was like, well, we'll see. Maybe the red background makes everyone angry, or maybe they're just being like, ah,
Oh, so
who
that's the
knows?
room you painted recently, then?
Yes, well, a
Okay.
corner of it. So the doors actually look really good. I took so I painted the trim and the doors black, but then I took it out about that far from the edge of the trim, so now the doors look bigger and deeper set. So
Okay.
Okay.
it's really good. But the lighting in here is not great. I'm sorry. I
Uh-oh.
Hello, Stasia. Hello, Zelda. Hello, Tammy. Hello, Lord Kiss Freak Chris. Hi, Susie Q. Welcome. Good to see you.
Oh, we lost Christy
We
again.
lost Christy. Oh,
Plant freak.
no. And Zelda was asking
There she's
hi,
back.
Christy, and wanted to know if the hubby was gone again.
Yeah, he's in Baltimore and he'll be gone for 4 months. So he was home for a day and then left. He'll be gone for 4 months and
Ouch.
then I'll see him again on the way through. So.
Oh, ouch. I'm in a bit of pain today. Had a couple of fillings, Lord Kiss Freak says, done. And now that numbing wore off. One tooth hurts, but it's manageable. I feel your pain. I was recently at the dentist losing a tooth, and getting bone grafts and all that good stuff. Ooh,
Yeah.
I
I'm
am
sorry.
sorry.
I
Okay.
like when a dentist tells you something stupid, like, now raise a finger when this hurt. You raise a finger, they ignore it.
Yeah.
It's like you just want to knee them in the groin a few times.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Ah.
Now I don't have my computer, so I can't see any of the comments. So just
Zelda,
hello,
I think it was
everybody.
Zelda that was saying she liked your red walls.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a deep red. So this is 3 coats. It's 2 coats of primer and then 3 coats, and then I have to go over everything one more time to get it all even. But yeah.
Are you going with the entire room red, or is that just an accent corner? Because you earlier said just a corner. Oh, okay.
No, it's the whole room.
Okay.
Whole room is red. The ceiling is gonna have 10 ceiling tiles, decorative 10 ceiling tiles on it,
Wow.
and then the trim is black. Like you can see the great hair.
Oh, yeah.
Zelda says, Christy, that must be hard not seeing him for so long. Yes, I got the filling part, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, we talk a lot on the phone and video chat and stuff, but it's it just makes a different kind of relationship. Communication becomes more important, and you have to really learn how to express what you're feeling and stuff like that because they're not there, so they can't. I mean, they can hear the tone in your voice and stuff, but it becomes a lot more. And I think sometimes everyday things kind of get skipped over a little bit because I'm running stuff here and he's doing what he needs. And so there's a little disconnect sometimes in that, but it's how it goes.
Hi.
Hello.
I just got to switch my sound here so I can hear you guys better.
Okay. How's that?
Try now.
Can you hear us?
Oh, that's better.
You sound-
Okay.
How's things?
Things are okay. Got word today that maybe, something helpful for court on Monday. We'll see. So
Okay.
just
We'll take every bit of
trying to
good
hang
news
in
we
there,
can.
I guess.
Take every bit of good news we can, right?
Exactly. And I took some time to watch Dr. Ramani's newest video, and oh my God, it took me all day. It literally took me all day. I had to keep pausing because I was in tears. And I had done like a quick therapy session this morning, and there were some feelings that I hadn't quite let out yet, didn't even know were there. So that it was like, okay, so there's a little extra processing happening. Hi.
Good evening. How is everyone?
Hi, Rebecca.
Yeah,
So good to see
hello.
you.
Good to see you guys
Hello.
too.
And I was going to say, Ben, you're in a different place. Christy's in a different place. Like everybody's switching up locations now.
Oh, I am. People have told multitudes of people have told me you're in a different place, so I'm used to it. Hey, the voices know me here, though.
Christy
is
Zeller
my-
has said, OMG, Christy, I thought we have the same decorating taste. I love using tin tiles on ceilings. Do you like Victorian style?
I do. So I like girly Victorian style. Michael is going for Gothic Dracula Victorian style. So it's a different. It is growing on me.
Actual character.
This is not what I would have done had it been my choice. So there's some adjustment.
I bet.
The ceiling tiles. How do you attach those? Are those glued, or do you nail them? Or
No, my little hobbit ass has to scale an A-frame ladder and nail those things to the ceiling. Like they're sticky on one side, so you can stick it, but then you got to get the tiny little nails to put in the corners to make sure. And this way, so instead of being a straight ceiling, it actually this side is higher than this side. So this is actually the lower part of the room where you can see. There's no tiles right there yet. But so, it'll look pretty when it's done because the trim, which is right here, will be black. And then you'll have the tin ceiling tiles here. So and then I've got like, I'm pink, I like pink, blush pink, girly, it's.
You could do a whitewash over that and make it pink.
Right. I mean, I am getting used to it. It is growing on me. It's just not. If you would have said, "Do what you want," this is nothing near what I would. No.
My goodness.
Yeah.
TK was asking you, Stasia, what Dr. Ramani was saying. If you
basically the anatomy of a narcissistic breakup. So whether it be a parent, whether it be a sibling, whether it be a partner, the anatomy of it, and a lot of it, you know what? A lot of it happened to me years ago. So he was done years ago. And I tried too hard. But you don't realize that in the situation. And I understand that, and I'm trying to give myself some grace for that.
At 100%, Stasia.
But at the same time, I'm seeing years of some of these behaviors, and it's like, wow, okay, so this is when he was done.
So are you talking like the devaluing and discarding stages?
Yes.
Now,
and like the jokes at your own expense, like for example, jokes at my expense, and then I would just start saying them before he could, so that I wouldn't be hurt as much if I said it, but then I start believing it. Right? So like some of this information would have been great for me to have known a while ago, but at the same time, I understand I wasn't ready.
My
Well,
dad,
it's not
my
like
dad
you could
wrote him a
sit
message.
there and say, "Hey, let's watch Dr.
He
Ramani."
was doing a message.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's gonna hear your voice.
Sorry, give me 1 second. Wee Man's just trying to send a voice clip.
Rebecca, how are you?
Yeah.
Good. Tired, fatigued,
Yeah.
but good.
Good. You look good. You look happy. You look lighter.
It's been a fairly good, long weekend because we
Yeah.
are closed today. And I got to go back to work tomorrow. But I got to sleep in. I did a little craft stuff. I did a little baking. So I've got some meal for the week. Yeah, it's as these things can go. It was pretty darn good.
Right on.
It's the little things.
It is the little things sometimes.
Yeah.
How are
Like
you
if I
all?
keep looking up, it's like everyone's driving really slowly across my, it's like the whole length of my yard in my windows there. And it's like, what it gets me paranoid, like, why are they slowing down? Are my guineas out in the road?
I'm making Lord Kiss Freak nervous, apparently.
Stasia, I heard something you
I'm
said.
being stared at by a cat. You know that stare where they just don't blink? They
Uh-huh.
just look at you?
Yeah.
I'm getting that look.
Oh, okay.
She's like right here. So
Mine is right next to me, just curled up. I have an oversized chair.
Aw.
It's actually she's taken it over. It's an oversized chair in my bedroom with a little ottoman. I made it into like a little
Sorry for
reading
that. My
area.
mom was just watching a video.
But she lays right here, and I think she's a little aggravated at me because I've hijacked her chair.
yes.
So she's like, I'm just gonna lay right here, right next to you. So,
Sorry,
I think DJ's confused. She's just like she will lay down, and now I'm talking, and I've been quiet all day.
in a couple days.
I don't know what this human's doing. Oh, no
Lord
longer showing her
Kiss
belly.
says I just stare my cats down when they do that. I've tried that. I've never been able to successfully stare a cat down.
Oh, I have.
she couldn't even just throw paws. She'd just start kung fu fighting, and I don't want to deal with that. So I just let her go. Whatever.
So
Apparently, she was hoping for food. I think.
play a couple of days
Just
ago. I
looking
was
at me expectantly, and she's rolled over now. It's more nap time.
okay.
Oh, what was it that I had said? Sorry, I'm not sure.
Yeah, does that. So anyway, we were talking about
Mom, my dad sent the picture, so can I send the picture?
So I just wanted to say, going back to the devaluing and discarding, they will do that repeatedly in a relationship. What they do is they kind of test the waters a little bit. So
yeah.
they'll devalue you and start discarding you because they feel that they maybe have another mark in their sight, and they're trying to see what's going on if you were out of the picture, and then they might realize that this is what's going on, and then they'll kind of love bomb you a little bit, like they'll be a little nice to you or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I see
that's not your fault for not seeing it, because they're going to keep throwing the bait out there.
Yeah.
After I left my first husband, I was watching this cat that had just stunned a bird, and it would just sit there doing nothing while the bird would just be out. And then when the bird would start to come to and fly away, he'd slap it down again. And I watched that for like 20 minutes. And I thought, that looks just like what I came out of. That's how that felt.
Yeah.
And I really like watching that video. It was like almost like going through my past relationship and seeing within like a year and a half in that started.
Yeah.
Within a year and a half in, it's like, how did I manage that for 9.5 years?
Right.
And I'm trying to see the resilience in it, and I'm trying to, I'm trying to find the positive factors that or the positive qualities that I possess to be able to manage it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But watching the video, like, it took some pauses, because it was like I was having the ants. I was having the automatic negative thoughts about myself. And then I was like, okay, no, now
Yeah,
you need to
help with.
reframe this. Yeah, now you need to reframe this and understand this is what you were actually able to do.
Yeah.
You were resilient enough to handle it for so long, instead of, oh my God, how?
Well,
So
and you probably had very true feelings on your end. And, you were trying to save something that you had these deep, authentic feelings for that were genuine.
Yeah.
And there's nothing, I mean, you can't, one shouldn't be too hard on themselves for having real feelings of love.
Right.
You
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
it was important enough. I mean, how I would reframe it from what I hear is that you valued love and
Yeah.
you valued that relationship and you were really trying to, give it everything you had.
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, and that's a good thing because it means that people aren't just trash to you. You're not going to be like and walk off,
Yeah. That. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like I was
And
saying, I think it was last night, like, the trusting factor for me, like, I've become a bit jaded, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's not like I don't have care for other people. I definitely do. I know I still have that, but I question a lot more than I used to.
Right.
yeah.
And he wasn't being honest with you
Yeah.
on, if he would have been honest and say and just been done with it and let you move on, but that. So it's not all on you at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cat and
And
bird scenario.
exactly. And I have to see that, because I'm still, I guess you could say, filtering through the points of the blame put on me versus the blame that should be on me. And a
Right.
lot of that put on me blame, well, I believed everything, literally everything that was said, so much so I went to a therapist and psychologist and said, well, this is what he's saying I'm like, and I got a diagnosis. And that is a wrong diagnosis.
And
Yeah.
that would be more typical than not. And the fact is, you're a person of deep emotion, so that's going to mean far more to you, or deep feeling rather. So that's going to kind of be a double whammy there, because you're putting so much value on him, and they kind of build themselves up. They manipulate themselves to that, to where you're going to I would still like to get a better idea of how they do that. I'm still reading
And
up on
what
it.
is the motivation? My God, why would you want to just spend your energy just doing that to people? Narcissistic people use all their manipulation, gaslighting, blaming others, and taking mental well-being. It's hard. It's a hard road to come back, Jenny says.
What?
But it's control, isn't it? It's control, and that they
What's
don't
it?
feel necessarily all that great about themselves, and so they're getting some I don't know what the right word is, but they're getting some self fulfillment.
Yeah, I mean, you are their supply. I mean, that's the reason that people in narcissistic relationships are called marks. That's why it's called supply. You're giving them the things that they need to function. You're like their food. That's the only way I could work it out in my mind. For me, was it was just you were feeding off of me, and sometimes sometimes I wonder if they know they're doing it. Like, that is so conniving to
Yeah.
manipulate on that level. And I
Yeah.
do truly, I mean, there truly are people out there that do that. But it's you know, I think I learned, for me, a long time ago, it was something that I was just never going to understand, because I just don't, I'm not wired that way. And I drove myself crazy trying to figure it out because I thought, if I can understand it, I can fix it even in myself and move
Yeah,
forward,
also,
not try to fix them, just fix it within myself. But then I realized there are some things I'm just never going to understand. And how someone was able to do that to me, why someone would ever do that to me, was just not, I had to quit trying to understand it. Now, just because I didn't understand it doesn't mean you're not going to understand it. You could be, a million times smarter than me, and maybe you'll get it, and then please let me know. But in my own mind, I had to say, with me trying to understand why you did what you did, you're still taking up space in my head.
That's
I'm
right.
still giving you my energy, and I'm just not, I just can't do that anymore, because there's no part of me that can go on and be okay if I'm trying to understand it.
Yeah.
And I think the people that could maybe kind of understand it for you or help you understand it would be like that HG tutor person that's a diagnosed psychopathic narcissist. But I can't listen to that man because he triggers me so badly that I'm like, you know what? I just don't need to understand this. I just understood.
Well, I don't know that we ever can, because we don't
Yeah.
think that way.
Yeah.
I don't know that we really
It's
can ever
unimaginable
completely
that somebody
understand that.
can think that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't think that way, and we can't imagine doing that to somebody else.
Right.
Yep.
And I tend to think people like that are really not self-aware. They don't understand necessarily what they're doing, and they've justified it to themselves.
Mhm.
So even if they're not technically like narcissist,
Mhm.
I think they just have no understanding, and then they also probably have low self-esteem, and so they're getting
Yeah.
a boost by doing this to somebody else, making themselves maybe feel a little bit more powerful or more in control or whatever. I'm sure it could be a lot of things.
And as opposed to having real power, which is taking full responsibility for yourself and for your own emotions and reactions and the things that you do and say and feel and think. Yeah.
Yeah, now a lot of times when people say that, use the term narcissist, they just mean people with narcissistic tendencies, or people who identify, or people who you can identify on a narcissistic
But if you're
checklist.
trying in between descriptions of Dr. Ramani, chances
Yeah.
are you've got you a duck there, walking
Yeah.
like a duck, talking like a duck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that, yeah, pretty much you can use doctors to tell you this is what this is, and then you can spot that, or yeah, you can go up and down the DSM-5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My hand in front of the camera, sorry. And I think in my situation, I honestly, for me to just kind of move on from it in my head, taking up the space, the bandwidth, I just go, well, I see that there was cult tactics used on me. He obviously didn't deprogram, and I can't question that. I don't understand that. And maybe, and I'm seeing now, not maybe, but I'm seeing now, I went down a path of needing to understand cults versus needing to understand what was happening to me. But that's my desire to help. That's my desire, not so much to fix. I wasn't trying to fix, but it was, I want to help,
Yeah. Do you
So I
watch
think
relatable? Oh, I'm sorry.
it's okay. So I think that I just kind of put the energy into it's tactics like this, and that's it. I can't go further into thinking about it, because I lose too much energy. That's what I'm realizing now. I lose too much energy focusing on it. Kind of exactly like you said, Christy. It's taking too much out of me, and I don't want to put it there anymore.
Yeah.
I just don't. Yeah. And Relatable Reese. Yes, I watch Relatable Reese.
Well, I was gonna say she's really good about, because she's only a year out of Scientology, and
Yes.
she does a lot of talking about that. And I didn't know if maybe that was helpful.
Yes, actually, I've sent many emails back and forth between her and I now, and she was kind of my flame to get out of the situation, because her personality is exactly who I was 11 years ago. This bubbly, I don't care what I say, who I say it to.
Yeah.
I was that person, and it was like, oh my God, it's okay to be that person. Once I saw her with her channel and talking with Aaron, it was like, whoa, it's really okay to be this person, and I want this person back again.
Yes.
So if I'm in her chat, I'll call her my flame because she's the one who lit the fuse for me. She's the one who helped me get out of the door.
Right.
That's
So
amazing.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
awesome.
I was gonna say I watch channels like AA Ron and Relatable Reese too, because there's a certain portion of seeing how other people are processing
Yes.
that helps me process.
Yes.
And I do like learning. The more I see them or learn about different cults, the more you see the commonalities and kind of what do you look for. And I like to think it will make me less susceptible to something like that happening again.
Oh yeah. Well,
Yep.
because you're getting knowledge for
exactly.
yourself, you know, and that's always a good thing. It's always
Well,
a really good thing.
yeah, and maybe the key thing, Kim, is just be able to identify unhealthy relationships rather than necessarily like narcissistic or histrionic or something like that. Maybe it's just to be able to remember a checklist so that way you can start, okay, maybe this is something I need to watch for. Like, okay, this person's fitting this. Okay, now am I just imagining it? Or I think a lot of times we will.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just something to keep you aware of, keep you on the lookout because people tend to be really unhealthy a lot of times with the relationships because we become blind to them. And if you're not ready, that's when you'll get somebody like a histrionic or a narcissist or a covert narcissist. It doesn't even necessarily have to be narcissistic. It could be obsessive. What do you call that? Oh my gosh, passive aggressive, something like that, and that can be equally harmful too.
Yeah. And like some of the things too, like I'm realizing I just took on some of those behaviors because I thought that was a way to get through to them. Because if they were talking that way, maybe there was a way that I could then get through to them on their same level. And there's a huge level of regret in that because that's not who I am.
Right.
And that's not the behaviors I wanted to learn. Processing that too has been difficult because it's made me question, maybe I was the problem, and then I have to remind myself, but this was happening then. It didn't happen before. It wasn't I may have learned some of these behaviors, yes, as a child, like some passive aggressive. I'm 100% a passive aggressive individual, but that is because I never understood for a long time that passive aggressive wasn't good. It wasn't healthy because I had to be passive aggressive to be heard as a child. So it was
in culture, Minnesota is known for that. There's a certain, like the Minnesota nice, you say things like, that's so special or interesting. Interesting is an insult, depending on how it's used.
Yeah.
And we learn that because that's how our culture, the people we're around do it. I know I've said it before. I really like Maya Angelou, who says, when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And we do what we need to do in situations as we're trying to survive.
Yeah.
So I was going to say, I don't get too hard on yourself because some of it is just trying to survive.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember that. I'm trying to remember that. And honestly, sometimes just going upstairs and saying to the social workers, I'm having a hard time right now and expressing why. Like, I'm watching a video right now and it's hard because I'm seeing myself in some of these behaviors. And they're just like, but let's look at the past. Let's look at where you are now. Let's look at where you were when you walked in the door.
Yeah.
Like, this is what we're looking at. We're not looking at that specifically because that was then. We're looking at now.
And
So,
I wanted to address Kimmy's Playhouse here. A lot of mental illness goes undiagnosed because there's a lot of people who don't want to go to counselors. And I agree, you do have to be careful about diagnosing without a doctor's license. But I do think that part of the reason that that's out there, part of the reason why there are channels about codependency and narcissistic abuse and all of these things is so that you are aware. Because going back to what Carol said, they might not be diagnosed, and And that could be for any number of reasons. It doesn't mean that they aren't, it just means they're not diagnosed. And I do still think there's a level of care that needs to be taken, and things do need to be yourself.
You know,
This is really important. I'm going to get back on, but I got to leave for a second.
Yep.
you know, and
It's like she cut out a little bit too. I didn't hear the end of what she was saying.
I mean, you got to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
When you've been spun around and strung along and just battered from this way to that, you know?
Yeah.
You gotta
And
know.
like even my core beliefs, you know, like I didn't grow up with monogamous parents. It wasn't until foster care that I learned what monogamy was, and that was 12 years old. So for me, my core beliefs and what I understand to be relationships was shaken hard in that relationship. And it's like, I know I'm a certain way. I know how I believe, but now I'm so distrusting because of the type of relationship, like being polyamorous, because of that relationship now. I'm like, does that mean that everybody's going to try and do the same thing to me? But that's me self-questioning. That's me. If I educate myself, then I'm better equipped to deal with the next situation.
Yeah.
And that's the way I'm
polyamory-
trying to see it.
Yeah.
Polyamory just
I don't
manifests the same things monogamy does.
Yeah.
It's just more people.
Exactly. It's the same issues, just a few extra times.
Yep. And some people turn to that because they don't want to deal with things in the like maybe there's a primary relationship. Some people turn to that because they don't want to deal with those issues. So let's bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
whether
Which
it's
doesn't fix it.
whether it's a label or whether it's not, if there's a person with some narcissistic tendencies and they're doing damage to me as a human being,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's, knowledge is power in that
Yeah.
situation. The only reason I'm going to stay in that is because I don't know.
Exactly.
And I'm the
Exactly.
one being damaged here. That person's not being damaged at all.
No.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, and that's the important thing, is to always be mindful of yourself, because as humans, we tend to be not necessarily as humans, but most people tend to be self-abasing, and they will tend to take the other side, which is what somebody like that preys upon, is, feeding that doubt, feeding that you're no good, it's all on you. And people with deep emotions or deep feeling rather, or well, same thing, they are going to amplify that. We're pretty, just by nature of who we are in this group, we're probably pretty damn good about beating ourselves up.
Yeah.
I'll lay odds that each and every one of us and all the people in the comments probably all excel at that.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, I used to just walk around like this, it feels like, and so the more damaging the relationship, the more comfortable it was for me.
Yeah.
You remember, I think it was Pretty Woman. There's a lot of things I didn't like about that movie, but there's one thing that Julia Roberts says. She says the bad stuff is easier to believe.
Mhm.
And sometimes, especially if you've been raised, I think, in trauma and other abusive type relationships or families, sometimes it's easier to believe the bad stuff. So you're more susceptible to someone who brings you, who, may give you some of the love that you need or want, but batters you for, the rest of the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's been an emotional day.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Kimmy's Playhouse. Yes, it's dangerous to throw around labels, but it's also dangerous for a person to be abused. Which is more dangerous? A person that's getting abused, or the person abusing getting labeled something that may or may not be true? Why would they care? If they can do that to somebody, why would they even care?
Well, some of them, I think, actually, like using my ex-landlady is a good example. I don't think her self-esteem is actually very high. I think this
Okay.
kind of narcissistic tendencies is her trying to feel good about herself. It's got to be all about her. She needs to be the center of the attention because I think there's just not the stuff inside to kind of help build herself up. And
Mhm.
she hasn't picked people that surrounded her that kind of maybe do that. And so
Mhm.
it's easy
Yeah.
to, when in times of stress, like she got worse during COVID. So it's entirely possible that it was kind of diffused before COVID, but when she was stuck being home, this went through all the other potential mental illness because she does see a therapist. I doubt they talk about her being a narcissist, but she's got those tendencies.
Yeah.
Well,
I
and
want
I
to put into
there-
context why we even got into this whole conversation about narcissist. Stasia watched a Dr. Romani video describing what was it, the what of the narcissist?
It's the anatomy of a narcissistic breakup.
And she couldn't get all the way through it without pausing and crying, pausing and crying, pausing and crying. We're not trying to diagnose anybody here. We're trying to survive here. That's what's going on.
And if I can
Trying to
address
figure out
just
what
the
the hell
statement,
happened.
yeah, and if I can just address Kimmy's Playhouse statement, like I understand that you agree it's dangerous, but I also think that yes, we shouldn't be calling somebody schizophrenic, but again, we're not trying to call somebody a narcissist. I was just watching a video that happened to have that in the name, and sometimes it's easier to say these behaviors, these tendencies, especially when you're speaking about Dr. Imani, because this is what she focuses on.
Mm-hmm.
well,
I'm
and
not trying to diagnose. I'm not trying to state that this individual is. I'm just saying that watching that video was hard.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it.
And
And I'm just saying that some of the things that I went through feel very similar.
mhm.
And
Well, and
a few of us here have it's like when one of her videos described the covert narcissist, it's like, wow, she just described my whole first marriage and my life in that relationship. 5
Yeah.
years of my young life.
and I was with a diagnosed narcissist. So I was, you know, married
I have a 1
and
hour.
lived for a decade. And I think there's a difference too between abhorrent behavior and mental illness. And I think that's a dangerous place to go. Abhorrent behavior is, like calling someone a racist unnecessarily. That is abhorrent behavior, right? But again, a lot of people with mental illnesses, it's a fact, aren't diagnosed. And that's not, like Carol said, that's not what we're doing here. We're just sharing our experiences in a way that says, this is what I dealt with.
Yeah.
And so you might not be dealing with a diagnosed narcissist. I did. Okay, I did. And I can tell you from my experience what that looks like.
Yeah.
And I do agree that, you should be careful, but I do think that you should also be mindful in your relationships that you are paying attention to red flags, that you are paying attention to things that other people have shared from their shared experience. And I think that you can do that in a healthy way and not go out and point at somebody and be like,
Yeah.
I'm
And
pretty sure you're this, that's not our
I
job.
don't think that anybody's trying to point at the other person. They're just trying to figure out, okay, what was I just in? And what do I do to not get in that again?
Right.
Yeah.
And
How do I
help others
reclaim the
not?
person that I knew myself to be before that happened, before this person happened to me?
Yeah.
How do we heal?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I agree with Henny too. Though my therapist has said, because we talked about my ex-landlady for an example, she said the majority of narcissists don't get diagnosed because they don't think they're doing anything wrong.
Mhm.
And so I think there's a lot of things like narcissism, mental illness, where people are ashamed to go or people don't go or, whatever the reason.
Mhm.
I just appreciate all of you because I'm trying to heal
Mm-hmm.
and I feel safe being able to talk about some of this stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
and not feel alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a bigger issue once you start talking to people that are, that are in those types of, we'll just call them what they are, abusive relationships. And
Yeah.
no one deserves to be in an abusive relationship. And
Yeah.
to me, if you're in an abusive relationship, I want to help you because I was financially abused, I was mentally abused, I was emotionally abused,
Mm-hmm.
I was spiritually abused. I
Yeah.
was crushed. It took me years to unmuddle my brain. And I wasn't kidding when I said $100,000 worth of therapy, and it didn't touch anything. So if I can help somebody with what I went through and say, this is what a therapist said to me, I don't know that it's the same thing. And you're kind of coming in too. You've got to remember, needing a meeting has been going on for quite a while. We've been working with Stasia for quite a while. And so you're kind of coming in at the end, not the end of needing a meeting, but in the middle of a situation. And that's a tricky place too, because when you
Yeah.
come into the middle of something, you don't know what was said before. So you kind of have to sort out too, like, because Stasia's been dealing with this for months now.
Yeah.
And, so it's kind of one of those, I think, no.
And it's perfectly valid to ask, okay, what was that? What was that?
Mhm.
Who am I now? And how do I avoid being in that in the future? Because that's you come out of it because you don't want that anymore.
Right.
And Stasia, what can we do to help you? What can I do to be there for you?
Right now, I just need all the love and support to be there for the 22nd. I need all the good vibes to be there for the 22nd.
Okay.
I'm doing my
You got
best to kind of process slowly so I'm not overdoing it before then.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have the energy, that's not going to be a good thing.
That's true.
What on the 22nd, because I've been gone for a few days and I might have missed it.
So the court date got pushed from Thursday last week to the 22nd, and the court date that should have been on Thursday, they're pushing it to the one that they told me was going to be in July, to January 22nd.
Oh, okay. And
So it's a little bit bigger and scarier than it was last week because of that. Doing my best to keep my ducks in a row and not lose them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I'm starting. Like again today, I didn't even realize I was feeling some things until I had that therapy appointment this morning, and I was like, this is not what I expected to be feeling. This is not what I expected to be happening, and it's overwhelming. That's all. It's over. Like I have been catching even Tommy's meetings at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. and I'm doing 3 meetings a day right now, just to make sure that I'm staying level. Maybe that's a good way to put it.
Hold on. That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So doing my best to try and figure out how to stay level. And then this morning it was like, okay, well, what helps me? Well, let's see how long I've actually been sober for. Cause I don't count daily, but I go back and I check every so often. And I'm past the 3-month mark on alcohol and hard drugs. And that makes me feel great.
Nice.
And I'm just over the 2-month mark with marijuana. So that makes me feel great. So I'm just trying to focus on those. And cigarettes are already starting to be like, really? I'm going to go out for a cigarette. So it's like, this is my 2024 goal, is to quit smoking cigarettes. And sugar is going to be another one, maybe 2025. But it was funny how I'm like, oh, sugar is another one. And it was even before Tommy's meeting this morning. And he started explaining how, especially drugs where you're using a lot of glucose, or you're intaking a lot of glucose, you start craving sugar after the fact.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. And it was like, wow, I understand now why I was I got sober first time in 2005. And then everything came back into my life at 2018 in 2018. So it's like in that period of time, I was eating extreme amounts of sugar, and now it makes sense. It didn't make sense at the time. It was just like, whatever, I'm making it through. I'm going to do it this way. But the more, and as we keep saying, the more education that we have, the better that we're understanding ourselves and the situation.
I gotta confess that, CK says, my shrink says people throw around narcissistic abuser all the time. He listens to Dr. Ramani, and he also says if a duck looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it is a duck. And I mean, I was a little bit triggered by that, I gotta say, because I know what I was in.
Well,
years ago, and I know what it did to me. And I don't ever want to go back there.
Well, there's a reason why a lot of these doctors, Dr. Ramani, Dr. K, oh gosh, Chase Hughes, you can find tons of them. There's reasons why they're quick to put these lists out, and it's because it is actually fairly common, and they want people to be able to protect themselves, saying,
yeah,
here's this list. And use this to evaluate, because you need something objective, because if you don't have that, you'll tend to be subjective. Oh, it's not that bad. Oh, it's we love to gloss over warning signs.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, and the damage that it does to your brain takes a long time to undo, because you who you were. I always say it this way: the Christy that I was before is dead. She no longer exists. That person doesn't exist. And she died an awful, painful, torturous death.
Yeah.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
And I can never be that person that I was before, but I get to choose who I am now. And the person I am today is based on that abuse that I suffered. It is based on my eating disorder. It is based on a lot of things. But I wouldn't be who I am if it wasn't for that. And I think legally, I understand doctors have to be very careful, and doctors can't diagnose without seeing the patient. And that's why you'll hear them say, I've not treated this person, but they exhibit the signs of XYZ. And I think we're also, with social media, I think we're in a time where these certain tendencies you see more and more of. And I think that, it goes back to the classic question of nature nurture. I think there's a little bit of both. I think the best way I heard it put was, nature loads the gun, your situation pulls the trigger. And so you are born with certain tendencies. If you ever go down that road, it could go really sideways for you. Tommy's talked about it with his own kids. Both of his kids, he said, and many times, really have tendencies to go sideways. And Spanx Calhoun was on there talking about how he did. So it's again that thing. And I think this is where it gets tricky. And I think as long as everybody is respectful and understands that, understands that, but it's hard. It's so hard to put your life back together and your mind back together, especially after you've been through it. And I know there are several of you in here that are dealing with it personally, from spouses to siblings to parents to cousins to exes. It is so hard to put your mind back together. And that was the hardest part for me. I'm very diligent in the steps. Like, okay, I can do this and go to therapy and take DBT, and I can do this. But when it really comes back to, you don't unbreak your mind. When your mind gets broken to a certain point, it's incapable of going back. And the more broken and the more fractured it is, the more fragile you are as a person.
That's true.
And, that's why people who get to the verges of nervous breakdowns, they have to be so careful, because their mind is already there. As strong as our bodies are, our mind is the most fragile. And And I think it's really that, because the thought of a person breaking someone's mind, that to me is abhorrent behavior. That to me is just
Yes.
vile. And I know, I know what that's like.
Yeah.
And I know the years it took me to get,
Yeah.
to fix that in myself.
Yeah.
And the thing was, I couldn't go to the person who broke me to fix myself, because they would just break me again. My mom had never been in an abusive relationship ever in her life. She couldn't help me, because her question to me was, why did you let yourself get treated this way? Well, that's not a helpful question either.
No. No, it's
And
not.
when you've got somebody going, well, I would never, well, you wouldn't until you don't realize that you did it. And then you wake up 5 years into it and you're like, what the hell happened?
Yeah.
So that wasn't helpful. You know what
No.
I mean? And so I think what's important, what everybody sees, is, is just having this safe place where you can come and sort your own mind out. Because at the end of the day, you're the only one who can fix your mind. You're the only one who can write a different page for your story. And you get to do that. And you know what? I want to give you a blank page and a pen, and I want to stand there and cheer you on as you write every word down. I'm not going to tell you what to write, because, that's yours, but I want to encourage everybody.
Yeah.
And if it means that I share more stories about what happened to me or my anorexia or other things, if it helps anybody out there ever, then I'm going to share it. And I'm not going to be embarrassed by it, and I'm not going to apologize for it. And I think it's important,
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you went through that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It does suck. And, I don't have a problem blaming my abusers. I did until I took one punch too many. When my abuser came barging into my house, I did not come into my own house and punch my own face and give me a black eye that lasted
No.
for 7 months. So, after that happened to me, after I got 20 years of distance between me and my abuser, which was my brother, and 2,000 miles of distance, years of not talking to him, and I let him into my orbit trepidatiously so that she could be around both of her kids.
Yeah.
And then that happens to me. That went out the window. Yeah, I can blame my abuser. It was 10:30 in the morning. I was in my nightgown. My mom had just finished. I had just taken up her breakfast dishes after giving her breakfast. I wasn't doing anything but getting up and giving my mom breakfast. And this person comes into my house and starts backing me into a corner and punching. So, I don't have the luxury of, oh, I got to take all the responsibility for me. I agree with that. But, I tell you something, it was very liberating to call a spade for me.
Yeah.
And that
And
person,
yeah,
go
and I wish I could recap everything. I just don't have the energy, Kimmy. I'm sorry, with everything I'm going through.
you
To
don't have,
recap everything that I've already said, I'm not trying to blame, and believe me, I blame myself 10 times more.
yeah,
Just for sticking around as long as I did, for making choices that I did. I'm not trying to pass off blame. I'm therapized up the wazoo to try and get me to understand I'm not the only one to blame.
no, you're
And,
not.
it's traumatizing. I know, speaking from my own personal experience, my mom, it is so hard when someone who doesn't understand, and I'm not saying anybody doesn't understand, this is just my own personal experience here. When someone doesn't truly understand how you get to that point, or when you start calling something out, as it can be very traumatizing. The first time that I ever really kind of started telling everybody what was going on, you know, my mom's response was, well, I would never let that happen to me. I would pack up and I would leave. Well, yeah, but You know, I was in a situation where I had 3 kids under the age of 7. I was being financially abused, so I did not have access to any of her money. I didn't know how much money we even had. I had no credit card. I had no debit card. When I went to the grocery store, I was given cash, and I was given a list that had everything I was supposed to buy and how much it cost. And I was given $5 over that to cover taxes. And I couldn't get anything that wasn't on that list. If I needed my car filled with gas, I had to give my keys to him, and he would go fill my car with gas. And so my mom could not fathom a woman living that way.
Yep.
And it was very hurtful because it almost like it re-traumatized me, and I had to explain something to someone that didn't understand. And she actually liked him at one point. She really liked my ex-husband, as did my brother. My dad never wanted anything to do with him, but those two did. And it's very hard when that's the only two family that you have left, and you're going through and you're having to sort through yourself because
Yeah.
you're asking those questions of yourself. Why did I allow this? Why did I let
I
myself
just want to
get
say this. It was not your fault.
Yes. And
It
abusers don't
fault.
start doing their worst. They start with little bits, and we justify or okay, and you know, and we're so emotionally invested, and then they take away all the things slowly, one at a time.
It's
Yeah.
like I told my mom, you know, if I would have walked in to this situation, you know, 3 days after we got married, you bet your ass I would have been gone. But that's not what happened.
That's right.
I was slowly broken down
Yeah.
over all of this time.
Systematically.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I'm not joking when I say it was 5 years into it before I really even realized. And then I stayed another 4 years because I was so isolated. I did not, you guys, I did not talk to my family for 10 years. That means I didn't speak to my mom, I didn't speak to my dad, I didn't speak to my brother, I didn't speak to my cousins, I didn't speak to anyone,
Wow.
not my parents.
And you weren't
And
allowed friends either, really much, were you?
no, my friends were the wives of the people that worked for him.
Yeah.
So that and that was it. Everything was so controlled. And I was so broken that I didn't think I could ever leave. And part of the reason too why I thought I wouldn't be able to leave was because the religion I grew up in. Now, I did not grow up in a cult. It was just a strict religious group. But I thought I was letting down my religion, my church, and my family by being divorced because I am not kidding. Of my grandparents, all of my aunts and uncles and cousins on both sides, there's only 2 of them that are divorced. My one uncle and me. That's it. Everybody else was married. So for me, this was a huge deal. And trying to sort it out, and then to have somebody say really hurtful things that came from a place of not understanding made the recovery worse. And it took the steps that I had gone forward in, and it drug it back. And so I think people, in my experience, and this is with my own family, if you've never been abused, be very mindful of what you say because you don't know how that could hurt someone. It's no different than when I was 12 years old and how I developed my eating disorder. Was someone said to me that I would not fit in and that I would be fat, their words, not mine, if I continued to eat that way. And I was eating a cheeseburger. I ate nothing but carrots for months after that, and I turned orange. And
Zelda
that's
wants to know if that's when your anorexia started, is in that relationship.
Yeah.
no, my anorexia started when I was 12.
Wow.
I was full-blown anorexic when I met my ex. And the anorexia, what started off as a way to control a situation to feel like I fit in, became the modality of how I actually coped with things. So the worse my anorexia was, was when I was in that situation. I weighed 89 pounds. You could see every vertebrae in my back. My eyes were sunken in. I was pasty white. My mom told me the last time she seen me that she went home and she cried. And she said, I gave it up to God because there was no saving you. And I lived like that for years. I did so much damage to my body because it was the only thing I could control. Of all of the abuse that I suffered, my food was the only thing I could control. Now, my kids ate, my kids were healthy, everything like that. But for me, it was the only thing I could control. So not only was I getting out of an abusive relationship where all the blame was put on me, no one blamed him because he gaslit everybody.
Yeah.
The abusers that I have experienced in my life blamed me for everything.
Yeah.
And it was so infuriating to me when people would blame me and not him,
Yeah.
because that wasn't the case. So not only was I trying to unscramble my brain and trying to figure out who I was trying to deal with an eating disorder that had been going on since I was 12. And at the time I was 36. My ex cheated on me with his secretary, who was 10 years younger than me, and left me for her. And I found out that my dad had terminal colon cancer. So it was a lot. And so things like this, they don't just come in little blurbs. You get a lot of it. You end up having to work through your own abuse, the abuse that your kids seen, the abuse that your kids witnessed. Put yourself back together, get mentally right. So I think it's a very, I think, and again, just from my own experience with my own mom, it did more damage and hindered me more to, because the victims get the blame. The victims get the blame more than the abuser does. Whether it's meant that way or not, it's the way it happens. And it takes a lot of courage to stand up and say, this is what this person did to me. It is the hardest thing you will ever do. And to say this is how it affected everything. And that's why I will always applaud abusers, or not abusers, abuse survivors. I've never been assaulted in any really nefarious way, but I would also never, ever look at a person and say, well, you probably shouldn't dress that way. It's the same thing. It is the same thing. Just like you would never say that to someone who's done that, you probably ought not say it to someone who's coming out the other end with some physical abuse.
I send you so much hugs.
Yeah. Everybody
Love
here
Thank
could
you.
use a hug.
I mean,
Sounds like.
and here's the thing, like, I really have worked through all of it to the point that, I'm really pretty good. The worst part that I battle is still my eating, and that's just when I get stressed. But even at then, I'm self-aware enough to know, you know what, I'm really struggling right now, and I'll reach out and I'll say something, and I'll be very mindful. But it was a lot of therapy to get where I'm at. I mean, I'm a pretty healed person. I'm a pretty balanced person. I'm pretty good at looking at a situation overall and seeing both sides, because, not everything is one-sided. Just in my relationship with my ex, there were things that I did that are on me. I mean, they weren't that bad, but there are things that I did that weren't okay either, and I had to work through those. And I think, you have to take accountability for yourself. But
And sorry to cut you off, CK. I did see them pop up. I just have my phone right now, so I will check them as soon as we jump off. I'm sorry. I saw her tell Stasia to check her messages a couple of times, and I just wanted to make sure I addressed it really quick.
Yeah, It's one of those things I do understand. I can kind of understand the rationale behind it. I'm looking at myself. I don't look to blame other people. However, you have situations like that, especially involving, situation I'm aware of, that happened to me. When you're a child and you're sexually abused by somebody, you're a child.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the mental.
No.
There is no, especially even when it's an unwilling child. I mean, we're not talking, you know, yeah, I
It's never
cannot.
the child's fault.
Yeah, and
No.
that's the thing is that it took me a long time to get to the point where I could blame the person,
Mm-hmm.
the perpetrator in my case. And I guess it could be said that there's, it's not necessarily healthy, but I think it's much more damaging to blame yourself.
I think so too.
Um, and
Because it kind of perpetuates,
you
a situation of abuse.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was my experience anyway.
yeah.
I kept getting in abusive relationships.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it takes so much courage, just so much courage to stand up and say, this is what happened.
Yeah, it does.
It really does.
It does.
Yeah.
It'll take some of the shame away.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not all of it, and it doesn't make it like go away overnight, but it takes some of the shame away to express it.
That's right. It's
And
not
to
a
have
deep,
people
dark little
not
hidden
judge.
secret anymore.
Yeah.
There
Right,
is some freedom in
right.
that.
Yeah.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
and the Native Americans call it calling back your soul. When
Mhm.
you say things like that, you call back the pieces of yourself that were broken and discarded. And you're not going to be put back the same way. But it is your story.
Yeah.
And you have every right to stand up and say what happened to you.
Mhm.
You know? Now, you'll notice I don't say my ex's name a lot. I don't mention my kids or their, like my oldest daughter has a different dad than my ex's. I don't do that for reasons. I'm not going to go just put somebody on blast
Sure.
and say the names all over the place. But I can tell you what they did to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. It's it does feel like some of the shame has lifted just because I'm able to say what I've gone through, and not just here, trying to again therapize through it all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I know it's going to get easier and I know it's going to get better, but it's just the energy levels right now and how to conserve them.
Mm-hmm.
How do I properly space out where I'm giving out energy, or not even giving out energy? I'm using a lot of the energy on myself or my kid, or either kid, because she's having her own little boyfriend issues. But, I'm trying my best to space it all out. But then sometimes it just hits, like today's video that I watched. It hits and it's like, oh my God, oh my God. And all these things that all of a sudden I start processing again. And again, even the I don't know if self-blame is the self-criticism. We'll call it self-criticism of, oh, I see myself in some of those behaviors.
Mhm.
Like that. I've always been able to hate myself.
Right.
But this situation has brought on a level of hating myself I never expected.
Wow.
Expected.
Yeah.
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
and that's how you gaslight yourself. So not only do you have
Yeah.
them gaslighting you, but you're gaslighting yourself.
Yeah.
And, of course, no one, one of the best things I ever got told, and this was at the most recent job that I had here in town, I screwed up this order so bad. Oh, y'all, it was like a $10,000 metal order. It was the wrong color. It was bad, bad. I was convinced I was fired. Like, I was like, that's it.
Mhm.
And I remember the GM looked at me and she said, no one is going to be
Well, stop
harder
the
on
lifeline.
you than yourself. I cannot be as hard on you as you're being on yourself. So fix it and just move on. She's like, don't dwell on it. Don't dwell on the mistake. Don't stay there. But no one in this entire company can be as hard on you as you are right now. And you know what? I realized that. And I was in my 40s. And I thought, that's true. And that is a very powerful thing to say to somebody. Look, okay, yeah, you did it. Wish you hadn't done it. Fix it. It is kind of a big deal. But you know what? I'm not going to beat you over the head with it because you're already doing a far worse job than I could ever even dream of doing.
Yeah.
And we do that to ourselves a lot. That's part of the victimhood. It's because your brain has been scrambled and you're trying to figure out who you are, because there's who you used to be, which doesn't exist anymore. There's the person that you want to be,
That's
which
just a
you're
lot.
trying to get to, and there's the person that you are now who has been abused and and you have to put your life back together.
Hmm.
And that's a hard place to be, really. It's a very, very
Mom,
hard
what
place,
does that say?
you know.
I'm my best worst critic.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Same.
we're our worst critics, or we're our best critics and our worst cheerleaders.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
cheerlead ourselves on, but
Mhm.
man, we will tear ourselves down in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And isn't that sad? Like, shouldn't it be the other way around? Shouldn't it be like, look at these things that I have done, and that, but
Yeah.
again, there's a certain level of pride that comes with it, and then you're like, oh well, we can't be too prideful. I mean, people say it. I say it all the time. I'm not trying to be conceited about this, but well, this would never happen. I baked a really good chocolate cake. We know that ain't happening, but I'm just saying,
Yeah.
if I ever,
But if it was a soup, we'd believe it because that's just cooking.
Yeah.
But baking, we know better.
Yeah.
no, we know. But there's even a part of that that's fact, and then you just laugh at yourself about it. Well, I'm so short that even if I stand on the tallest step stool I have and stands on my tiptoes, guess what? I ain't reaching the top of my ceiling. Might as well laugh about it. I have hobbit rage. I probably don't make me mad if I have a chunk of cheese in my fridge. I'm probably gonna throw it at you.
Some seasons like me, do not make her angry.
There are funny things about ourselves, and it's easy to be self-deprecating like that, right?
Yeah.
But it's really funny too, and especially when it's true and everybody knows it,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
You're good at other things. It may not be baking,
okay,
but you're great at a whole bunch of other amazing things.
I'm really creative. I'm really good at making creative things,
That's excellent.
Yeah, I just can't make a creative cake. I could, it probably wouldn't rise. like thud. It can make you a paperweight.
It's just overbaked. It's good. It's good. I am going to have to pop out, though. I'm starting to get a little fussy human beside me.
Yeah.
I needed to stick around a little bit longer to get myself feeling good before going, though.
How are you feeling?
And Carol,
I'm feeling better. I'm feeling way better. Thank you all so much.
Yeah.
Just like Tommy says, and like we say here, just the connection and just being able to talk about it is a lot bigger than I thought it ever could be.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on.
Oh, hey, your name, right there.
Hey, superhero.
Oh.
All right, guys. Good night. Oh.
Goodbye.
And I'll stick around. I'll keep listening, though.
Okay.
Bye.
Whew.
Well, and Carol, you've got animals.
Yeah, it's 20 minutes till sundown, and I don't want those boy goats to be out there any longer than they have to be in that snow. Poor little
Well-
hooves, so cold.
Well, I for one have to say thank you, Christy, for letting us see the Christy SG up on the wall there. Your freshly painted red walls. I feel like I'm now one of the cool kids and I'm in the know. So yeah, I feel like I'm part of an exclusive clientele now.
Well, I'll just say this. It is not everybody that gets to come into my bedroom and my space. So maybe not say too much. Maybe if you wanted to make somebody jealous, you could just be like, by the way, Christy's got a really cool guitar hanging in her bedroom. I know. It's pink and black with pearl inlaid fretboard. Hey, if you're gonna stir up trouble, stir it up, right?
Yeah. Gonna be a bear, be a grizzly.
Like, go back and watch Needing a Meeting. Well, did you want to do some breathing, or did you want to do a meditation, or I don't want to keep you any longer than.
No, I think a meditation. We have time for that.
Okay. So let's do a calling back our soul meditation. I don't normally announce what we're doing because normally I make it up on the fly as I'm going along. But I think maybe we need to call some powerful parts of our stuff back after this, and some love and some grace. So let's do that. So everybody go ahead and we'll do 3 of the box breathings. So for those of you that are new, breathe in for a count of 4, hold for a count of 4, and then release until all of the air is out of your lungs, allowing your shoulders to drop. If you have a personal mantra or something positive you want to say as you're breathing in, do that on the inhale. And if you have anything you need to just push out of there, do it on the exhale. We'll go into a little meditation. And then when we're done, I'll say, go ahead and open your eyes, and then we'll be good to go. All right. So get loose, shake it out. Roll your shoulders and relax a little bit. Close your eyes.
Let's see here. This ticket goes.
Drop into your heart space, whether that is placing your hand on your heart or envisioning a little version of yourself going into your heart center and walking into that little room and sitting inside of all of the love that you have for yourself. All right. Going to go ahead and breathe in. Hold. And exhale. Again, breathe in. Hold. And exhale. Last one, breathe in. Hold. And exhale. I want you to imagine that you are standing in a meadow surrounded by ancient mountains that rise from the earth. And there are sandstone walls around with old hieroglyphs carved in them. And as you stand on this land, you feel the ancient energies of those that you have loved who have gone on before you. And as you stand there, we're going to call back the parts of our souls that we have left in other places to come back and join us again. I want you to envision spreading your arms out wide, whether that's above your head or at your side or down by your hips, making a fist. And you close your eyes and you tip your head back. And you scream out into the universe, all of the passion and fervor that you have. That which I have left behind, return to me now. I want you to take a minute and sit in that energy, feeling those parts of you that you've left in other places come back into your soul and into your heart. Find a loving home again, bringing back the joy that you left in each little space. And as these parts come back, you feel your heart and your soul becoming more complete, becoming more filled with love. And you open your eyes and you look forward. And you see each one of us and anyone else that's important to you standing in a circle around a bonfire. And you run over to join us with your newfound love and completeness. And we welcome you into our sacred circle. Someone hands you a stone. And we each look at the stone and focus on the things that we are ready to release at this moment right now. Whether that's a part of your past or something in yourself, a bad habit or a negative thought. Focus it into the stone. When you are ready, throw it into the fire. Feel the passion and fervor that you can. And as the stones hit the bonfire, you see the sparks jump and dance, fly up to the sky. That thing that you got rid of is now gone forever. And as you sit there surrounded, you stand there surrounded by those that love you and support you and encourage you. You go up into the night or the day, better able to face what is ahead of you, knowing that parts of you have come back home. You have amazing friendships. As the wind blows through your hair, you smile, feeling a little more complete than when you got here. When you are ready, open your eyes.
I don't have any influence as to whether or not people can be ready for open air. Oh, not. You guys asked a lot. We're not going to be ready.
What?
We're doing. I don't know.
What? What? What am I hearing?
Yeah.
Do y'all hear that? Am I hearing crazy or am I hearing voices?
No, I can hear it.
Okay.
Yeah, CK was wondering if it was chickens in the background.
I don't have anything on here.
Oh, it could be the voices in my head.
Well, we can all hear them. All right, you guys. Well, have a good night. It was good to be back.
Yes.
And I will see you all again tomorrow. Take care.
Good night, everyone. Love, hugs, support to you
Love
all.
you too.
Bye.
Woo. Well, yeah. You guys, thank you. You all make this a good, safe place to be. It's not just me. It's all of you. And it's all of us together. And we're going to work through what we got to work through. And, yeah. I love you guys. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your love, your support. And see you next meeting, I hope. And until then, very much peace, y'all.